Here we are again. Oh man, I'm getting better at that button. No, I'm not. All right, so welcome back, everyone. Another episode of the Walkthrough Podcast presented by Southern Oak Custom Homes. Today, it's just Kevin and I. We're talking about labor management, kind of running crews, organizing, training crews. But first off, before we get going, Kevin, how you doing, man?
Doing good.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Good. Life's changing a lot, man. But this week, no kids. Sent the kids to the grandma's house, and it's just been a lot less noise.
It's nice.
Yeah.
You can eat dinner in peace.
I know. We went out to eat last night. Not a common occurrence.
Where'd you end up going?
We went to Cane Rosso in Fort Worth. It's a pizza shop. So went and we were at the medical district, visited a friend, and then pizza afterward. It was good.
I like it.
So, mustaches. Mustaches have hit my church hard. They're just, everybody's got them. It's like we're dying. Just everybody's so hip, got their mustache. But here's my question. As an employee of Southern Oak Custom Homes, can I have a mustache? I'm tempted. I'm tempted hard right now.
The creepy
man.
mustache.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
What do you think? You ever rocked a mustache?
Never. I've done this or been clean shaven. That's it.
Okay.
I've never done just a mustache.
Like the few day trim.
Yeah. I trim 2 days a week.
Well, anyway, one day I'm gonna grow it. I'm not brave enough to just grow the mustache straight. I gotta grow the beard and then trim down. So I'm gonna come in one day and you'll be like, oh gosh, get out of here.
Trent with Core
Construction.
He's rocking a good mustache.
Trendy. And it kind of curls there at the end. Oh,
he does a good job.
Hey Trent, if you're listening to this, well done. Yeah. Your mustache is well played. All right. So today, man management, labor management, taking care of crews. You got a lot of thoughts on this, or you nervous to talk about it?
Let's go for it.
All right. Well, let's start. So, those people who don't know, how long have you been in framing?
20 years.
20 years. And today we're talking to you as the owner of K&H Construction, which is a framing company.
That we currently still run.
Still running. All right. So 20 years. How old were you when you started framing?
I believe it was like 13.
13.
The summers.
Oh,
and
man.
then about age 15, I started going to school half a day, 4 days a week. And then so I was framing after lunch and then on Fridays. So,
I mean, that's 25, 30 hours a week.
Plus Saturdays. So you're pushing 35 hours. You're almost
full time at 15 framing. What kind of employee were you? Were you good? You're working for your brother, so they were riding you hard, I'm sure.
I think I was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was probably a little psychotic.
In
times.
In what capacity?
Like I didn't understand why everybody didn't want to stay and get after it and stay late, get there early.
Oh, psycho in the best way possible for a boss. You wanted to work from the beginning.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
When you first so you start at 13, but at 15, when you already had 2 years experience, what was your role at that time?
At that time we started, I was probably by 16, I was running somewhat a Cornish crew. I was running stuff kind of like my brother would send me off and we would do I'd do a job and then we'd come back together.
Oh, you were a team lead essentially.
Yeah, kind of. But some days you're taking a guy or two over here to do punch or start a little small job, or he was letting me kind of get my wings of kind of what it was like.
That's cool. So what is Cornish for those that don't know?
Oh, the eave soffit, the soffits on the outside of the house and siding, porch ceilings.
Why do we still say Cornish?
I have no idea.
Because like
Cornish encapsulates your eave soffit, your porch soffits, your siding, your doors and exterior doors and windows. Like when I say, whenever I have a Cornish crew, that's their scope of work.
okay, so everything like exterior side, like everything that water hits. That's the
Basically,
Cornish.
yes.
That's cool.
I don't know why it is called Cornish. I don't know why.
I wonder if it's from like I have no idea.
Back in the day somewhere.
Like England from Cornwall. Things from Cornwall, England are always called Cornish. So if there's like some team there,
Maybe.
who knows? Did you like working for your brother?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. Are you saying that because he might hear this recording one day, or
No,
was it legit good?
No, it was good. No, it was good. He was going hard at it. He was a good boss, good leader, taught me well. So when I left, or like when he moved away in 2008, it was just pretty much a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Of not much changed. He did a good job of the transition. And
when you say he was a good boss, and we're again just talking framing, like what makes a good framing boss? Like what makes a good crew chief, crew leader?
I think you're not. Well, that's what I say. I think we all evolved to where we're better now, but showing respect to everybody, showing them respect, and then teaching. You're not just holding all the information. You're teaching and trying to let everybody grow in your outfit, in your outfit, and not just trying to constrain everybody. He was very much like, "Hey, you want to learn? Let's go."
That's
if you
cool.
wanted to learn, if you didn't, he would just
let you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so learning a lot of times in all kinds of areas of life means mistakes and errors. How did you remember creating a lot of errors or causing a lot of havoc in the early years?
Sometimes not nothing like that was earth shattering, or that was detrimental.
Okay, so let me back that up. In a framing job, you got crews out there. What is a mistake? What do mistakes typically look like?
It could be as simple as a doorway's in the wrong spot, or a window's framed wrong, or a wall is not plumbed properly, or it's not lined properly. That's like kind of simple, basic.
Plumb means level, but on a vertical line.
Yes, and then line is the wall straight when you're looking down the top plate.
Mm-hmm.
That's basic.
Sure.
Then you have pure wreckage of your.
I love wreckage. I'll interject. So one of the names that we considered naming this podcast was the wreckage, and maybe it was a mistake to not use the wreckage, but
I love the word.
Oh man!
So
yeah.
All the way up to where I've had some of my crews at one time. We didn't plan a roof in. They didn't plan a roof in good, so we had to demo part of the roof. You had to back up, and so
is it easy to reuse materials when that situation happens?
Depends how bad it is. So there's catastrophic. That would be bad because you do not look. The confidence in the homeowner and your GC plummets.
Yeah,
and
then they maybe not want to hire you again.
Yes, so you have to really come in strong, repair it quickly, correctly, really fast, no drama, and you can usually repair because mistakes do happen.
Sure.
So people, they understand all that, but
if somebody owns it, it's a whole lot easier to move past if somebody owns their mistake.
But as a GC, if it happens too often, obviously they should cut you loose.
Sure.
So I've only had that instance one time.
Oh, really?
Twice.
How far back was that?
3 years ago was the last one.
Okay.
Somebody didn't nail some decking off, so I had to tear some shingles off. And then it's probably 5 years ago. 6 years ago, had to tear out part of the standing seam roof because they didn't plane the roof in properly. So it was oil canning, what they call it. So it was a bad deal.
What does oil canning mean?
On a standing seam roof where it
what is a
wrinkles.
standing seam roof?
Concealed fastening metal roof.
Oh, okay.
So
So
there's no screws. It's bent on site. It's a high end roof.
Okay.
Very nice. But if it's not perfectly straight, you can get some oil canning. And it's called oil canning where it has like ripples in it.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Or not a lot, but I've seen that.
Some architects want the oil canning because it gives it an old look.
Mm-hmm.
But in new builds, 98% of your projects, they don't want it.
Right, because I would imagine if it's done improperly, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So anyway, but.
Okay, so we're going to get to like you training and how you go about like serving your employees, building up your crews. But can you think of like something early on that you struggled with or like it was difficult to wrap your brain around? And like, who was your boss? How did he teach you through it? Like, is it simple as like, I couldn't figure out the framing square, or I couldn't figure out this type of roof angle, or I couldn't.
No, like he would, like that stuff was pretty, he taught us and we just, you learn on as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. I remember him calming me down. Like, I remember thinking I was bad to the bone.
Uh-huh.
And him setting me straight and being like, hey, you're not that
good.
You're not that good. And like, you got a lot to learn. And I would remember thinking like being pretty down about it.
At this point, you were 16, 18, somewhere in there? Starting to really get an ego?
No, I was probably 19. At this time, I'm full-fledged running crews. I'm like running them. And like, so have my own trailer. Like I'm running, like I'm never working with him really. So he had to like, hey.
Calm down, little boy.
Yeah. You're not all that in a bag of chips.
That's awesome. And for people listening or watching, Kevin is number 4 of 5 children, right? So there's 4 boys and a sister. And so brother number 2 is your boss. And I love
Steven.
it. Yeah. He sits you down and says, listen, man.
I think we were in a car. I think his wife was in the passenger seat. And like I was smoking, blowing something. And he was like, listen, let's get, like, we need to have a talk. You're not ready. You think you're bad. You're not.
When you started framing, were you guys using nail guns or still hammer and nail?
No, nail guns.
Nail guns?
Yeah, there's a couple of GCs that required hand drives, but like only on like rafters and a couple of things they wrote. But most of the time, yeah, all nail.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So
what were those early crews like? Like if you compare early crews that you were on versus crews that you run current, like today, like what were the early
crews were very much, I guess, stereotypical. You think of Hispanics now, but it was very much a rough
and tumble
American guys of like,
you just
I joke around
redneck.
There's other things I want to say.
You're allowed to say redneck, I think. Yeah.
Well, redneck. But I'm talking about like. So, the climate was, it was a joke that we would need 10 guys to fill our crew. You would hire 20.
Right, because you hire 20 and 10 of them are not going to show up because they're high. They're on drugs. They're just no call, no show.
Or they're just goofing off. And so you'd figure out like employee A, you figure out that he needs, after about 3 or 4 weeks, you figure out how many hours he needs because that's always going to work. Around 25. Okay, he's going to be around 28 to 22.
He pays his bills and his beer money with 22 hours. He's not working 23.
And so you have, and then a lot of these guys are very talented, very talented in the craft, but they had no follow. Couldn't show up on time. Couldn't show up. Couldn't depend on them. They would work it. They'd work with you for a year, and leave, go work for another guy. So there's no consistency. They didn't want to build with you. They're just there. They're just
No character.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the early crews were very much, your cut off shorts and no shirt style.
Oh yeah.
Crews, rougher, very rough.
Yeah. 1990s.
Yes, and then later on, we ran into some good men, and we got synced into some good, linked up with some good Hispanic guys, and rocked on. Started training.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's awesome. How did y'all back then? How did you hire? How did you find new guys to join your crews?
they'd walk up on your job, ask for a job.
Yeah, I need a job. I got a hammer.
And they check their pulse.
If anybody needed a job, you would hire no matter what. Like if you had crews filled or not, because you knew one of your guys would leave. Like the turnover rate was
no.
constant.
Sometimes you did, and then other times, yeah. For the most part, yeah. You're kind of hiring just because you kind of know, hey, you're gonna have guys falling off, so you're kind of constantly hiring. But you can usually tell if somebody pulls up. You can usually tell real fast if they know what they're doing or not. And then you can tell 100% as soon as that first day they show up, and they show up with either brand new nail bags. You never do that. That's going to get you, you're going to get picked on.
Sure.
But if they show up with if you're a framer and they show up in the front pouch trim bags, then you know, hey, you just talked a whole bunch of game that you don't know. You pretty much know this guy's, he'll be lucky to be able to run a saw.
Yeah.
So you can usually tell by how their rig or like their tool belt set up.
Yeah.
Like this guy's.
Has he got the shoulder straps or just the waist belt?
Well, not even that. Just if how they're set up, you can usually tell. Hey, that guy knows what he's doing. Now, sometimes their quality may be in the dumpster, but you can usually round a guy in.
Yeah.
If his quality's out, that he's worked on a crew that they've allowed like their standards are less than yours, you can usually, if a guy's willing to learn and are willing to adapt, he can very easily accommodate your standards.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that goes to
but
human
if
nature.
Stupid,
if somebody's humble,
yes,
somebody has humility and willing to learn from an authority, easy.
Yes.
You teach them, you hire them, and you're like, yep, I'm with you. Or you're with me. Let's go.
Yes.
That was awesome. Okay. You said you were psychotic I always want to work. Why are we stopping? Let's go. Like from 15, was this your career? Like you're like, I'm a framer.
I guess. I mean, it just kind of found me. I was, yes, I get, yeah.
Which would you rather? Would you rather 100-degree heat or currently outside it's like at 105? Like, would you rather 105 or would you rather 20s?
105.
How common is that answer, do you think? You think most guys rather heat or most guys rather cold?
I think it goes 50-50. Because it's going to be a dichotomy. If it's 20 degrees and it's sunny outside, I take 20 every time.
Oh, sure. And no wind.
But if it's 20 degrees with a mist or with a light rain and the wind's blowing, I'm going to take the 105 every time. But if it's a sunny day and it's 20 with no humidity, I'll take 20 degrees every time.
Oh yeah, no, humidity is a game changer.
But so it kind of depends. So
in a general, like, if I had to choose, I'd rather heat than cold always.
Yeah,
I hate being cold. All right, so we talked a little bit about like your history, you coming up. Talk to me about like transitioning from your brother leaves, you buy him out, and now you are the guy. What was that? Were there any surprises? Was there anything that surprised you or shocked you?
I wouldn't say shock per se, but it's you. And even before my brother left, like you're learning as he's sending you off. Hey, take these batch of guys, go do this small job or do this house or whatever. In your mind, you think, you watch movies of like military or whatever, and the boss says something and you do it.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, so then you think, hey, I'm in charge.
They're going to do what I say.
I'm 15. I got my little truck, little learner's permit, and I'm pulling a tool trailer. And there's 45-year-old guy, and I'm telling him, hey, let's do this. Let's go faster. Let's work harder. They're just like, shut up.
Yeah. Okay, kid.
I don't care. Like, and so in your mind, you get frustrated. They don't want to show up. You're pushing. So like I would be pushing hard, and then like they would almost not show up back from lunch on time. They would want
to troll you,
just to push the limits, just to let you know, hey, like I don't really care what you have to say. So I get frustrated and things like that. So by the time he left, I kind of figured out, or I was figuring out, hey, Kevin, that you need to like, you just set an example and then lead through example more,
mm-hmm.
and then respect them, have their craft, they're in it, and then go more around about not telling them,
mm-hmm.
but more of a coaching, or not coaching, but
giving them autonomy, giving them their own voice.
Yes, like allowing them to, like I listen to Jocko on this, they talk about like decentralized command and different things like that. And I never thought about it like that, but I started thinking, okay, hey, how would you do it? How do you want to do it? Okay, it's cool. And as long as the outcome was the same, I'd be like, let them kind of run it however they wanted. Didn't care. So you start putting it back in their court, and then they kind of, and when it failed, or if it did fail, well, then it wasn't like the young buck failed us.
They're not pointing fingers, but now.
No, I didn't want it to fail. I was trying to prove points, but most of the time it didn't. Usually the outcome comes the same, and you move on. So you're trying to learn that. Probably the biggest thing that I was learning was personalities.
Yeah.
The learning how you have to lead each guy. You're leading each person differently.
Sure.
And learning their personalities, just like
because they're going to respond. One guy's going to respond to a butt chewing, and that's the only way he's going to respond. And one guy just got to ask him a question, and this guy, yeah.
And but on the butt chewing side of things, like I used to think it was cool to like throw things, or like not cool, but like have big eruptions,
mm-hmm.
and be like, not really thinking it was cool, but like
that's what you're supposed to do.
I'm like, I just let them know that the boss is mad. Well, looking back, you just feel like a moron when you think about like the explosions and the throwing things, and you feel stupid. But at the time, you think that's learning all those like to be in control. And I'm not always in control. I mean, I do slip up, but learning that, hey, let's be in more control than not.
Yeah, and what you're talking right there is like self-control or control of the situation.
The control of the situation. Control. Not. I was very bad at belittling.
Mm-hmm.
Like stuff would happen, and I would belittle people. That was bad.
Yeah.
So, like learning to not belittle and not to, what's the word? I could be very good with my words, of like just cutting with my words, and learning learning that didn't really get you nowhere.
Sure.
And all you did was
you created a fence.
Now we've got, he's mad, I'm mad. We still got the problem.
Right.
The problem's still there. Instead of figuring out like, hey, how are we going to fix it? Let's move on. Yeah. And then later on, you try to address, you definitely need to be addressing it. But I now try to address, hey, okay, if I am really just, livid, try to get the problem fixed, move on, and then like address it later. Like, hey, I'm calm. Everybody's calm. Yeah. Hey, what do we learn from that? How can we?
So, okay, we're 20 years after. Today is a little over 20 years from when you started framing, and it's pretty cool how honest you're being about just your growth as a leader. For those that don't know, I hired Kevin I was just a teacher. Hired him for garage edition, and that's how we hooked up. And one thing I did notice was you're 36 and you have several guys that, like, more than a handful that have been with you and your brother or your brother for over 15 years. Like a few at 10, a few at 18.
Yeah. It's like all of that. I think Lee chose the been with us the longest. It's 2006.
Okay.
2005 maybe, I think.
Because I think Miguel and Pascual told me about 18 years.
They may be that long.
Yeah.
No, it can't be 18. It can't be 18. Maybe it is. Either way, long time.
Yeah, but we're talking about like belittling people versus not. You know, when you want longevity as a crew leader, you can't have turnover, right?
Yes.
You know, when problems arise, there's got to be trust of, well, we're going to get through this together. I'm going to respect you, and I expect to be respected. And
yeah, and
we'll
you don't want to be a donkey. That's what, like, whenever you're that's just you're immature. You can't control your emotions. That's not you. Like,
you're being a 20-year-old.
Like, yeah, if you have like a flyover, a guy takes you back, you die, and he takes you back, and you're flying over. There'd be some pretty embarrassing moments of like. So sometimes I do think people will disagree. There is times where you need to have forceful, or maybe not force. They need to see that, hey, this is like not okay. Well, like, this is insanity. What just happened? Because most of the time it's big building. Hey, I've been telling you about it, and then all of a sudden it's like, or it's just you've done something absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. But so, like you're talking about, some people don't respond. If you're just like, oh, hey, it's okay, we're good, we'll figure it out. No, okay, no problem. But some people need to see, like, hey, like we are there, like this. I'm like, man,
I need to change. Yeah.
We got to change.
I don't have experience in the experience you do of leading men and over years, but as a father, I do know with my sons, there is a healthy fear that is born in a son who knows the wrath of his father. And just because, like, we're talking about eruptions or whatever, you don't have to be out of love to maybe have an eruption, a display, some theatrics.
Well, it's like you have to make sure it's constructive. Like, mm-hmm. I've had GCs erupt on me, and it becomes belittling. That either we're stupid, we're retarded, like just belittling me or the guys that are working with us. That's where I'm like, hey, like, no, you're not going to like talk to us that way. Like, you have a legitimate reason to be upset, mm-hmm. and we probably should be getting screamed at. But belittling us
doesn't help.
That's not like that's not. You're not going to take it that far, and so that's where I would probably overstep it sometimes. But like, if you're losing your temper all the time, that's not good either. Like, either you're not leading well. I look at it as this: shines back on you. Either you're not leading well, you've hired wrong, you didn't communicate well. Like, it all just dumps back to you. If it's happening all the time to the same person, then it's more you.
Always.
It's your fault that you're like, it's getting to this point that you're erupting.
With the theme of today of labor management, that's a really cool overarching talking point. If there's issues with your labor, it's your fault. It's you. That's as the boss, as the owner, as the crew chief. Like, take accountability.
And it's a tough construction. Everybody has their egos. Everybody has their, I don't know what you would want to call it, but if you go too hard on holding guys accountable, depending on which guys, but most of them, and they'll quit. They don't want to be around you. Mm-hmm. So then you have to like delicately walk down a path of holding them accountable. If you want to have people long term. If you walk in there always just like just slamming that gauntlet down, most people are not going to stick with you. And I don't know if that's in other industries. I don't know, but in construction for sure.
Well, and I think just across all industries, it's very fair to say that consistency is going to be more profitable. High turnover in your labor force is not a great thing.
No.
So, okay, so today, let's can you give me like a bird eye view of K&H labor force? Like how many guys you're running? What do the teams look like? How many crews? Like
There's about 40 guys.
Okay.
That comprise of 8 crews.
These big, well, 40 divided by 8 is 5 guys a crew. Is that pretty average, or you have some guys bigger, some crews bigger, and some smaller?
Yeah, some of them are 4 guys. Some of them are like the Cornish crews are busted into 2 to 3 men crews.
Mm-hmm.
Framing crews are around 4. Some of them are like 6 or 7, and then your decking crew is anywhere from 2 to 5, depending on how many he brings. And then we've got a punch crew that's kind of around 4. So,
what does punch crew mean?
I say punch. That's not the right word. Miscellaneous. Like they're doing demo. They're doing setting doors. Hey, we need to run some siding today. We need to do a little painting or something for some reason.
That's cool. Miscellaneous crew is nice to have.
Yes.
They can just support just like the utility players.
Yes.
How did you arrive at this like designation of crews and like separation of workforce? Like, was it a natural flow, or like was it super strategic from you? Like,
no, like we met like when I first started framing with my brothers, we knew guys that had several crews, but they would do it all: walls, joists, rafters. They do the soffits, they do the deck, do everything. So if you had a 5-man crew, they'd take that house start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Then my oldest brother, Aaron, moved to Mansfield. And about the same time, we were meeting some friends down in Austin, meeting them. And both of the 2 separate places, Mansfield and Austin, but they had the same model. They had framing crews, walls. A framing crew would do the walls, joists, rafters, bracing. Then you'd have a Cornish crew do the sheathing, exterior sheathing, all your soffits, windows, doors. And then they'd have a decking crew. So they'd have them busted up in 3 different crews.
For everybody listening, sheathing is around the exterior walls and decking is on your roof.
Yeah, putting like the OSB on the walls and then on the roof. So that model, we kind of saw how successful that was. And then that's what, hey, we want to do that too. These cool guys are getting after it and making money. Let's do it that way. Yeah. There was definitely pushback.
Does it make you more nimble, like in the day-to-day, like having the specificity of each crew, or is it more rigid?
There's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Like you have most of my crews, I've trained them towards like, hey, we have like, as a GC that hires us, they don't care that when the Cornish guy's on the ground and Cornish, but they need some punch done inside, some changes. They don't want to hear from me say, hey, the framers, they'll come back or they're not there. So I'll have to like, hey, Cornish guy, go in there and do some light pickup work. Mm-hmm. That way, it's a seamless for the GC. They'll get paid extra, but especially here in like Erath County, everybody pushed back because they wanted to keep us where they met us. They were, hey, Steven or myself was on the jobs, we met them, we did all, and then it was all of a sudden we weren't. Or as it started growing, and then we had to bust it up into Cornish crews and framing crews. That really frustrated a lot of people. But now that it's just what we do now,
right?
Every person like I never have it. Everybody, I set the tone now. Like the GCs don't tell me how to do it. I say, hey, you're going to hire me to do your job. This is how it's going to go. I tell them how the sequence is going to go, and nobody says anything because I have a reputation of getting it done and a reputation of getting it done.
Yeah,
they're lacking. So.
No, I thought it was fascinating, just watching your crews work just the orchestration. Like it was clear for me as a customer, there was order, unity, there was like intermingling, like all the different guys would come and go, but they knew each other. And yet it's still like, for me as a customer, I had one number that I could call.
Yes.
And it handled it. Or I could talk to whoever was present and I knew it got back to you, you know, or I think Tommy was running my job and he just handled everything.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that. How many builders do you work for, you think, currently?
I have no idea. Maybe 30.
30 different. Does a typical builder build what? 2, 3, 10 houses? Like I have no idea.
I'd say 4 to 6 a year.
4 to 6 a year.
So maybe 30 is not right. Because I have some builders that do like one big one a year. I've worked from homeowners. So maybe it's more like, we do probably like 100 to 120 projects a year. And that encompasses builders, like an actual GC to homeowners.
Right. What's your loose breakdown of like 80% of my work is for builders and 10 or 20% for homeowners, or
90% GC and probably 10% homeowner.
That's cool.
So
I guess there's pros and cons to both.
there is. But I'd rather work for GC.
Yeah.
But
if you're a GC, we'd love your business. Love to serve you.
Yeah, it's definitely on the framing side. I'm not structured. You're not structured to. You end up having to answer all these questions. Basically, almost being the GC while you're framing. And I'm not. I'm here to have a work for a GC that has his ducks in a row, that knows the customer's wants and needs, and he's relayed them to me. And I'm just there to execute this. Whenever I've got to execute, but also come back and figure out what all these need. I do it, and we do it all the time. I think we do it well, but it's more labor intensive.
More friction.
Yeah, more friction. Yeah. Not in a bad way, but it's just part of it.
Yeah. But. No, I asked you to hold my hand a few times during my project that I was GCing. You did it graciously.
It does get it's just.
That's awesome. What's your travel radius for? You got all these guys. Do they all live here in, like, let's say 15-mile diameter from each other, or are they your guys spread out?
They live in Cleburne, Joshua, Stephenville, and Dublin. Kind of that.
Oh man, that's an hour itself. Maybe 70 minutes from Dublin to Cleburne.
3 of the crews come from Cleburne. The rest of them are here in town.
Okay.
So
that's and what's your travel radius for jobs you'll take on?
Basically 90 miles.
90-mile radius.
But you start pushing into 90 miles, that starts throwing you into the Dallas area. Unless it's a big enough job, I usually don't do. I don't go that far.
Okay.
So, but I'll go 90 miles to like Possum Kingdom, Brownwood, because it's 90 minutes.
Sure.
Hour and a half, you're there. You start pushing into the Metroplex, and the 90 minutes might turn into 2 hours.
Oh, man.
It becomes tougher. Cities are hard.
Okay, so if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, man, I kind of like what he's saying, how he leads, or what he's talking about leading guys. Would you share with anybody, like, what does your day-to-day look like? The reality of, I wake up, I go to jobs, I come back to the office. This is how I handle my crews, because you're talking about training people. That takes time. Acquiring work for 8 crews, you got to bid, you got office time. Like, what does your day look like? What do your weeks look like?
You're getting up in the morning, same thing as anybody else, your little routine, and then we're either starting jobs or I'm checking on jobs, one of the two. You're either snapping lines, starting new sites, or you're checking on jobs. And then usually in the afternoons, I like to try to get in the office, do bids, material lists, all that kind of, trying to line up where we're going next.
Could I say you touch 2 or 3 job sites a day? Like, physically you're there?
Sometimes you hit depending on
the geography.
Yeah, the geography. It's usually probably 4 to 5.
You'll touch 4 or 5 projects a day. How long are you on each job site?
Some days it's 2 hours, depending on the complex of the problem. Or if you're starting it, you're there for 3 or 4 hours. And then sometimes you're there for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You pull up, get out. And I've seen, so you know you can walk up in any frame or nut, like as soon as you're checking, you're lining stuff up, checking plumb as you're walking. You're checking, is the roof planing? You're checking gaps. You're checking tolerances. Boom, 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 boom. You're checking the things centered things, and you're just walking it. I try to walk some of these sites. I have different crews that I know I can
trust, that
I don't have to be there as many times, and I have others that are different phases of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Different phases of the job. I can only show up for 10 minutes, and other times, like as a cornice crew is starting, sometimes I'm there for an hour, hour and a half while I line out, make sure they've got all the details, make sure they've got all the info, all the intel of what's going to happen. So it depends on but anyway, so hit 4 or 5 jobs, and it may vary time of day, but, and then try to hit the office.
Then you're spending, like, office time means on the phone, like with your material supplier. Like, hey, where are we at with this job? Office time is doing takeoffs.
Yeah, you're doing takeoffs, material lists. You're sending out proposals. You're following up with proposals. You're trying to scheduling. Okay, hey, where are we going next? What's going on next? And
how many? So, you went to 5 jobs and you have a 90-mile radius. So sometimes you're 5 hours in the field, and then how many hours are you?
Depends. Some days I'm here till 6. Some days I'm here till 8. Some days I'm out of here by 4. Just depends. But normally it's till at least 4 to 5, and then but sometimes it goes 6,
right,
or 8, depending on if you're not able to get in the office much, your proposals and all that stuff will back up. Well, then everybody.
And then you start losing jobs.
Yeah, my GCs, they need these proposals to present to their customers accurate bids. So I've got to get this stuff done. So if I'm not careful, I become a bottleneck for my GC, and that's the last thing I want to be. I want to be the fastest one. I want to be returning my proposals as fast as possible. Because the faster they can return their proposal to their customer, the chances of myself and my GC win a job go up dramatically.
So one thing, this is presented by Southern Oak Custom Homes. We talk about a better build experience. When I came to work for you, and it was from, again, like my experience with you as a homeowner hiring you as a framer, you made that very clear, and it's kind of cool. I was living it, and then you put words to it, and you're like, look, I was an expensive frame bid, but you've had a great experience. Like, I provide an experience, and here you are describing, like, if you're a GC and you want a framer, like, I'm going to provide you a great experience. Like, I'm going to take off some hurdles. I'm going to take off some friction.
Yeah, you want to take, if you're a subcontractor and you're wanting to take it to another level, I believe that you should be taking as much as you can off your GC's plate and make it super easy to do business with you through your billing, communication, that you're on time, that you're going to finish on time, or within margins of error it's construction.
Yeah.
Certain guys won't show up, weather, all the dramas that go with it, but you're within those margins of error of on time starting, on time completing. And if you're not,
and not a pain to deal with,
and you're computing, you're not a butthole. You're pleasant to the customer. If you do meet the owners, you're pleasant to them. You're not foul mouthing in front of them. Get your guys not respectful to their families, and so you're just making it where doing business with you is super easy and frictionless. That's the key. And
so let me ask you, how much conscious work, again, labor management, this is like self-management. How much conscious effort have you put into improving your own processes? arriving at this point, and not that you're done.
The processes of like getting it done, not much. I mean, I just kind of learned from all these other guys. Hey, Cornish, the process of how getting things done. But as you go along, like learning that, hey, the nitty gritty details of like how to flash windows better and how to do these different things. I try to research. I try to watch videos on how to set windows better, how to do better, be a better framer on the nerdy side of things.
Oh, I'm asking about your day-to-day processes. You're like, oh, this is how I check the sites, come to the office, deal like, have you had guidance in mentorship of, hey man, this is how you can be a better subcontractor?
Yeah, I've had like a mentor out of Austin.
Yeah.
Steven and I, we watched him a lot, kind of how he did it. It's probably modeled the most from him. And the process of like how and he's talked to us. And of course, I talk to Steve, my brother, a lot still. Mm-hmm. We talk a couple of times a week. And then I listen to lots of podcasts, lots of YouTube videos of like just business owners, construction guys, how are they doing it? What are they doing? How are they making it good for their customers? And most 98% of it's probably just going in and out, and out. But you're catching a little here, a little there as you're driving down the road, listening to the stuff, and you're like, oh, apply that. But then also too, you're just out of I don't really know how I came to the processes of like making sure. I'll think of it as soon as we turn it get off. I'll think of hey, didn't give credit here or there, but I should have given credit to this guy. But
what about this? Right now, is there anything that you're consciously trying?
For instance, the mentor out of I got into a bad deal, one of those roof jobs. It was just bad. He called me for something. I was telling him, and I was like, man, this is bad. Like, we royally messed this up.
Yeah, wreckage.
Like I'm writing a $35,000 check just to the roofer because I had to re-roof. Just a bad deal. He was like, hey, it's bad, and the chances of you probably working with that guy are probably
0.
And but I still do, and but I ended up working for him. But he told me, he's like, hey, no matter how bad the relationship has derailed, no matter if you messed up, they messed up, no matter how bad it is, they'll always remember the last thing you did for them. So no matter how bad it is, you make sure you leave those job sites spick and span, in order, and you leave the last thing that they touched or they remember about you was good, no matter how bad the problem. So I've tried to take that to heart. So advice like that, like how do you recover from disasters? Because people may say, hey, I've never had, maybe you're not, but if you're going to scale, if you're going to grow and scale, and I wouldn't even say I'm like to say scaling, but in small business carpentry, scaling a little bit, you're going to have wreckage at levels that you never thought. You're like, how would we have ever gotten here? Boom. So if I've had the craziest things happen, but a lot of good crazies happen too. So trying to think if there's something else.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you have any points of focus that you're trying to improve? Like right now, as a business owner, as a crew chief, as leading these guys, like, is there like, this is what I'm working on right now?
Probably like, because I've like as much as we talked about communicating, I'm not good at it. So people, but hey, when we gonna start? I like ignore.
Yeah,
I don't want to tell it because I don't want to tell them the truth.
Sure,
because it ain't good.
Yeah,
and also too, so I don't want to lie. I'm not going to lie to them, so I try to avoid them.
Yeah.
Oh wait. So then it just makes it matter. I don't know why you do it, but it's just subconsciously. And you'll tell yourself, this is what I tell myself. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So you're trying to figure out how to manipulate the schedule to where you can get everybody happy. Manipulate your guys, but not manipulate them in a bad way, but like manipulate you have so many man hours. Trying to manipulate those man hours to make the schedule work.
Yeah, it's a puzzle. You're trying to like strategize the puzzle to work.
So that's probably trying to be more everything that's inside of this head. I have proposals built
Are they sent out?
Well, they're all sent, but like nobody knows if I got hit by a truck today, what needs to be invoiced, what jobs are done, where we're at. Trying to download more of that down on paper, and then have a better schedule. Like right now, I literally just we run by the seat of our pants. And to some extent, you have to be that flexible if you're running if you work, because it's like stuff's, you got windows that are coming in that you didn't know were coming in, or something got back ordered that finally showed up. So you have to constantly be pivoting.
How many projects do you think you're working on at a single point in time, typically?
On a slow time, you're doing 8. When I'm busy, and during the busy seasons, I might be doing 12 projects. But when you start pushing 12, like there's slippage. Like right. I can't.
Yeah, you fall through the cracks.
There's punch that I'm not catching. My GC. I'm relying more on my GCs to catch some of the stuff that I'm doing. That's not good. That's not what they paid for. So, but that's rare. Normally, you're trying to keep it within your margins of what you can handle. But,
okay.
But awesome. So anyway, so working like processes on the nerdy side of like is our processes of like how to, when we're closing out a job, really walking it and making sure we've caught all the punch, all of our hangers, all of our double, all the,
the technical like framing technique, framing execution.
And then making sure it gets done, making sure all that stuff's checked off and done, and then helping the lumber yards get the materials counted and returned.
Yeah.
It's not technically my job per se, but at the same time,
everybody works together.
The experience for my customer is if like when I'm done, we've made sure that we've helped orchestrate, because I don't supply materials, we only supply labor. But if I help orchestrate getting that extra leftover material returned to the lumberyard, if I help, so when I'm basically walking off the job, all material's gone, it's spick and span. Those are the things I'm trying to perfect of like, how can we...
refunds are given by, your lumberyard to the builder, to the homeowner.
So they're all happy. So just trying to orchestrate how to,
the experience.
This is about... Most people can get a project 98% there. And that's where I want to, like, trying to work on that last little 2% of, like, really putting the bow on the experience of what we're framing for, of making sure that the job is in perfect order when we leave.
That's awesome.
And that's a working process.
Sure. How do you train your new hires? Like,
trial by fire.
Like, at this point in time, are your crew chiefs the ones doing most of the training?
Yes.
Okay.
And then like most of the crew leaders have either been self-taught. I mean, not self-taught, but like they've been
they've been working with you. What's the shortest time span that one of your crew chiefs has worked for you?
Peter. I bet I don't know when he started exactly. I bet he's probably been with me for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. That's remarkable.
On crew.
Yeah. And he was framing before he came to you as well?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't remember. I can't remember if he was or wasn't.
Okay. So, you earlier mentioned you have mentors, you've learned, you have a lot of support as the business owner. How do you provide support, training, encouragement, whatever for your crew chiefs?
That's probably like an area that I need to work on. Mm-hmm. There's not much. It's like you're checking on them.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing your guys 3 times a week, typically on the sites.
You're seeing them 3 times a week, and I hear your phone all the time. You're talking to them every day.
Yeah, you're probably talking to them a couple of times a day. So you're learning. I can tell if one of my guys is if Pasquale's having a bad day, I can tell if he's on or if he's off. Miguel, Tom, I can tell things. And if that goes on for too long, too many days, then I know, hey.
You check in personally.
What's going on? Like, hey, is everything okay at the house? And you're kind of, and then sometimes, no. you know, uh, so it's just you're checking in. Some days it's, hey, it's no fun. I'm just been sick. I'm tired, wore out.
Is it hard? And this is personality thing, for different people, but is it hard for you or easy to remember that your guys are humans? They're not just framers. Is it easy for you to maintain that humanity and that personal connection?
It's not too bad. It's just a matter of the biggest thing is slowing down and making sure that not only are you talking into the crew leader, the guy that's running the crew, the leadership, but also to building that relationship down the chain of command.
Mm-hmm. Being approachable,
talking to everybody, learning everybody's names, learning what everybody's up to.
That's cool.
So, not just because in your mind you're thinking, hey, I've got this, I know the big picture. Hey, I know that I've got to check on the stuff because I got to keep these jobs going so you can keep feeding your family. Well, but they're human too. Like you're saying, They want to say, hey, take a second, visit with me. What's going on? Yeah. I'm thirsty. It's 105 out. Where's the Gatorades, Patron? So you're trying to so those are the things, but I'll find myself just running and gunning and not stopping.
Right. You have much employee conflict? Like within your guys getting mad at each other, or your guys getting mad at you? Like how do you deal with conflict and?
No, sometimes. Struggle? I mean, I've had some guys that refuse to work. Like some crew leaders refuse to work on other guys because they were like brother-in-laws and they hate each other's guts or something. I don't know what all happened, but something back in the day was not so bueno, and they didn't want to work with each other. So I don't know what all happened, but so I've had but you learn, hey, their personalities don't mix. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ego in these two guys. You don't put two raging egos together. You try to, unless one of them can check it. Mm-hmm. If one guy can check it, well then, okay, cool. But you try to complement each other. You're a guy if you're going to have two crews work on the same job, some days it's just, hey, they don't want to work with each other, but I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. We've got to get it done. We got to work together for 3 days. Just suck it up. And then other times I do try to compliment it, people who want to work with each other.
That's fair. Have you gotten better at you earlier talked about just screaming and whatever, getting angry. Have you gotten better at reprimanding employees?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't even think reprimand is the right word. How do you deal with correcting an employee?
You're trying to
course correction.
I approach it now as like you're trying to sell. It's not like, hey, here's my rules. Beat the rules down your throat, and you're gonna do it my way or the highway, and all that. I find that most time don't work. I've tried that. I think everybody, if you're not really, unless you've been really mentored really well, and you're just awesome, but I think everybody kind of goes through these different kind of phases of I'm gonna be that hard nose. Some days that works, some days it doesn't. But I usually try to approach the selling of hey, this is what we want to be. This is our culture. This is what we want to do.
Join.
We got to keep the house. We got to keep the jobs clean. Job cleanliness is a big one. Hey, I'm showing up and your job's constantly dirty. Why is it not clean? Well, I just ain't got time. They'll give you all these reasons, and they're all valid. Yeah. You're listening, but those are pretty valid points. This is because they'll turn it on me and say, hey, you're pushing us to get these jobs done because we're in time constraints. But then you're telling us to stop 30 minutes early to clean up. Can't have it both ways, big man. That's what they're looking at, and they're right.
Yeah.
100%. So then you got to help them. Okay, so is that what we're up against? That's the reason. So you let them present. Hey, why are we not doing this? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, sometimes it is that. I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is that I'm not allowing enough time. Cool. So it comes back on me. I need to allow a little extra time. And then I also put on there hey. Yeah.
So if I give you one more day to complete this giant job, can you cut that up into
some of it needs
minutes?
To be, hey, sometimes I'm like, hey, you need to be a little more strategic about your, just let it get efficient. Trashed and then it takes you a full day to clean up. Well, it shouldn't. So it allows you to kind of coach on that areas. but you sell them why. I try to say, hey, why, like, hey, why does it matter? Tell them, I try to approach it on the selling of why. Why are we cleaning up? Why do we want to be safe? Hey, I've asked y'all 10 times to tie off. They refuse to do it. Then I'm like, hey, why? Well, I want you, number one, I want you to go home at night, not broken. Number two, hey, we signed on to this job. Our GC expecting this. Number three, we need to, we don't want to be sued. Like, we don't want to get OSHA fines. We don't want to get you hurt. You start selling them on the why. I find that effective. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. And some days you do have to, like cleanliness. I keep harping on that since that's my biggest pet peeve. Is some days you go over there and you unplug everything like that's what I had a friend or one of my mentors. He's like, some days you just go rip it out of the power pole, all the plugs out of the power pole, and stop right now. And everybody's mad, they're pissed off at you and all that stuff, but you don't want it to get to that point. But some days you do, and you have to kind of reset the table, and then everybody kind of goes. But for the most part, if you tell them why you're doing it, I'm not just showing up here just to be this guy that rolls up in a pickup truck and just creates these tasks.
Right.
Nobody wants that guy that just creates tasks out of nowhere, because I've watched a video on it. So, nobody wants that. So it's like, hey, why? Why are we doing this? I'm telling you. I'll tell you why. If it's trashed, you can do the greatest frame job in the whole world, and it's trashed. People are going to think it's a subgrade, maybe a C+ frame job. But if you could, not that you want to do it, but you could do a B+ frame job, but it's in spick and span order. It's swept, it's blown out, material stacked up. But people are going to think it's A+ frame job. They're all, that's why.
I keep going back to my experience as your customer. The rafter tails got cut off, the rafters, and there's just, it was a wreck. Like I left the house and I just saw a lot of debris, and I was leaving. They were in the middle of putting the rafters up. So when I got back, I had like an hour meeting. When I got back, it was perfectly stacked. Like every single rafter tail was stacked, leaned up on like right next to the fence. And I was just like, man, I'm glad I didn't have to do that. I had that
experience. It's about that people underestimate customer experience.
Yeah.
And they want to just get into the whole, like, it doesn't matter. Does it really matter?
No, it
matters. It doesn't matter. It don't matter. Like the whole spectrum of the job, I'll clean up at the very, very end of my job. It'll be clean. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. And they'll have all these reasons, and a lot of them are very valid. But at the end of the day, we're not dealing with robots. We're dealing with human beings that are it's experience. Yeah. Now, so anyway.
So okay, we're kind of wrapping up. I've heard you talk about giving people a voice a lot. Like, I'm using my words to describe it, but you give people a voice. You give your crew chief, you let them provide solutions. You give them autonomy. You bring people and you want to create a team, right? Like, we are not adversaries. I'm your boss. You're working for me, but we're together and we're going forward. This is why we're going. Do you have any other like overarching philosophies? Like when you think about managing your company, managing your guys? One thing you've told me a lot is don't burn bridges.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I try not to just burn it down. I mean, sometimes you have to part ways with people, but, because for one reason or another, they're not progressing with me. Either I'm not a good teacher. I don't know how to teach I'm not able to get through on their personality to help them progress. But letting them go is not a bad thing, because I've had guys and even customers too that we've parted ways, and then we all circle back to one. Then I didn't burn it down. I didn't burn the bridge down. We didn't leave it hostile. Hey, we agreed that, hey, we can't work together no more. But then later on, for whatever reason, either I improved or they improved, or both of us improved. We ended up connecting again, and it worked out even just harmlessly. So that's what, or harmoniously, together. And that's one of the things that you're trying not to burn. But if I'd have burnt it down, like just let my ego get in the way and just like go crazy on it, that person wouldn't have maybe come back. Or I couldn't have, or even me trying to go back to them going, hey, I want to work for you again. I want to frame your house, or hey, I want you to come work for us.
Sure.
So it's on both spectrums. Because you're managing, your customer, and you're leading. You're leading your customers and builders, and you're also leading your men.
And I'll put another word on it that I see is just a desire to maintain humility. Right? To just stay humble. Like, talk about two guys that can't get along, two big egos on the job site, unless somebody can put it in check. Well, that's humility. Unless one of the guys is like, hey, fine, he wants to be alpha, that's fine. We'll work together.
That's it, yeah. Everybody knows construction. Everybody's got the stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
You got the stereotypical builder that's got a massive ego, that's everything's about him and about that. Same thing, too. You have subs that are walking around. You have to give them the road or they freak out. And I'm like, hey, yeah, cool. You want the road? Yeah, here you go. It don't matter to me.
Nice.
I'm just here to finish. Or I want to get done. Like, I want to be, I'm not here to, ego is probably a big, big factor in when you're leading people or trying to lead a company of checking. Now you do need to have some confidence. There's a dichotomy to it because you do need to have some confidence, a little bit of ego. Because if you don't really think that you can do it, when I'm talking to a GC, if they don't really think that I know that I can do it, I need some of that
bravado.
Hey, so there's a dichotomy, but just knowing when to but because there is times where I'm like, hey, either customer or sub, the other fellow subcontractors that I'm working around, there is times where I'm like, hey, I'm not giving you the road.
Yeah,
like
it's got to be this way.
You're wrong, and this is why. Like you're out of line. And so those are rare. I mean, they're so rare that it's like I can count on not even one hand of how many times I've stood up to a builder or a sub and just threw the gauntlet down and said, you're out of line. And you're either going to check yourself or we're loading up out of here. Those are so rare. Because normally it's like, hey, I can let it go. A factor. Oh, you need to peacock in front of the builder or the homeowner. It's cool. I look like the donkey. I don't care. I just want to get done.
Nice.
I just want to get done. So,
do you have any closing thoughts? Any goals for the company you want to communicate, or just how do you want to end this?
I don't know. Just keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking. That's what K&H is going to do. Keep on
keep
trucking.
on going. So
nice. Well, man, thanks. This is awesome. And another episode of the Walkthrough Podcast. Here we are. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
I like it.